on Context, a former convict who returned to court to thank his judge, plus a multimillionaire who's giving ex-offenders a second chance. I'm Lorna Dueck. You're watching Context, the show that looks at life beyond the headlines. He breathed the most fire on CBC's Dragon's Den.
Because it doesn't make any money, I'm out.
But on his new show, Redemption Inc., Kevin O'Leary offers 10 ex-convicts a second chance, showing there is a softer side to him. Well, maybe.
Out with it.
Redemption? Let's put it in context. I'll ask Kevin O'Leary why he wants to help ex-cons and what redemption means to him. But first, an Ontario man who spent years in and out of jail. Maxwell Beach has a remarkable story of second chances. Maxwell, welcome to Context.
Thanks
Great
for
to have
having
you
me.
here. Listen, it wasn't enough for you to have a great family and all of that went with it. Why not?
Growing up in a rather strict household, I lived, I would say, more or less a sheltered lifestyle.
Your dad was a minister.
He was a minister, and my mom was greatly involved in church and missionary work and things of that nature. And so coming up, not being able to go to the movies, be in tune with what's going on, I became very curious at a young age to find out really what's out there and what the world has to offer.
You start stealing, you move out by 15, it ramps you up to a flat-out life of crime. Tell us about going to jail for the first time.
Going to the jail for the first time as a young offender, I was probably around 15, 16 years of age. And what I had observed on TV was contrary to my experience. And so I didn't think that jail was anything, you know, like to worry about.
But you reoffend, and you reoffend again
Yes.
and again.
Yeah.
And now you're facing something really serious. Have you gotten scared yet?
No. The adult system was very similar. You're inside, you go in your cell, you're served food. There's 3 stages. There's young offenders, there's adult, and then when you graduate from the adult system, from jail to penitentiary, that's where you really see the difference.
Okay, you were at that stage. You
Yes.
haven't been rehabilitated. You've been in and out of jail since
Yeah.
you're 15. Nothing's working on changing your ways. Tell me about this last time. You're waiting to get sentenced by a judge.
Yes. Now, this last time, I was on some pretty serious charges, weapons-related, narcotics-related offenses, and I was looking at an extensive period of time.
Incredibly,
Yes.
that sentencing gets delayed. Not once, 4 times. They lose your paper, the judge is sick one
Yeah.
day. And in the midst of all those 4 waitings, you, I understand, felt a different judge weighing in on you. You felt you had to do some time with God. What happened?
I had been on bail for approximately a year or so, going back and forth to court. My sister, Joanne, had been on me, come to church, come to church, come to church. I was on bail at the time, pretty much on house arrest. I was on some pretty strict conditions. At the time, I had a son, his name was Emmanuel, and he was about a month old. And I was just there at home with him, and she was always constantly on me, come to church, come to church. And so I started to come to church. And as Emmanuel grew, I remember holding him in my arms and just looking at him, wondering, you know, are you going to raise this boy, you know, to live a similar lifestyle like yourself? And I started to think, and being brought up in the church, these things are rooted within you. Although my lifestyle definitely demonstrated I had no knowledge of Jesus Christ, it was rooted deep within me.
And what did you think that was asking you to do?
While the sermon was being preached in the middle of church, I almost collapsed right at the altar. I had my son in my hands. Somebody came and took him from me, and I just fell right there at the altar in the midst of service. I remember just crying out to the Lord, God, I'm sorry. I need you. I'm lost without you. I beg your forgiveness. I'm ready to surrender. I mean, I just become like a little child, bawling, helpless. And I just remember pouring out my heart to him. And a gentleman came to me and said, would you like to be baptized? And I told him to heat up the water.
Okay, and within a very short time, you're in front of the earthly judge.
Yes.
And you asked that guy for mercy also. And what did
Yes.
he do?
I had not been straight with the judge in regards to custody of my son Emmanuel, and had not told him about the sentence that was hanging over my head. The judge said to me, Maxwell, you haven't been straight with me. Regardless, I still feel that Emmanuel will be better off in your care. This is all after I'd been baptized. So that was a miracle in itself, knowing that I have all these years.
You got
looming
the
over
most
my head.
amazing second chance from that judge.
Absolutely.
90 days served on weekends only.
Absolutely.
7 years later, you bump into that judge who gave you your second chance.
I've been searching for this judge for years just to tell him thanks, for basically saving 2 lives. When I came to the courtroom, he didn't recognize me, and when I had spoke to him about the time of sentencing and the events that had taken place in the courtroom that day, because I was really, really shook up. I had become a new man. I was like just totally changed. So he remembered. It was a day that he would never forget. And so when I had brought up what had taken place, he said to me, I remember you, I remember. And then I had started to tell him, you don't understand the impact that you've had on my life. My son, Emmanuel, at the time, both myself and his mother, we were kind of neither here nor there. And so with young parents, who weren't really ready to be parents, who knows what would have happened if I'd been sentenced 5 or 6 years. And I just let him know, that, he had a hand in saving 2 lives.
Okay, Maxwell, we're going to bring you back at the end of the show and give you some time to think about the other paths to redemption with our next guest that's coming up. But now we want to find out what you in the audience think. Give us a vote. We want to know, would you give a convict a second chance? Yes or no? You can call us at 1-800-215-4913 or send us an email at contextwithlorna.com. We'll have studio audiences in a few moments, but first, Kevin O'Leary on the surprising premise of his new show, Redemption Inc.
One of my family members spent time in prison. I know the devastation it created in his life, and I want to help somebody just like him.